how has the songwriting changed since Gavin came in, and the production process, or was there no change at all?
No, there was.
Who writes the songs? How do you work?
Big change. I used to be a bit of a control freak. I think a lot of it was to do with the fact that we weren't full time, and so time was really, really pressing. So I would come up with all the parts, give it to everybody to learn. Then we'd meet up. Mainly it was all me that did the recording until All the Walls onwards, when it was a band. And so we would cobble together a tour, and in those days it was getting in a van, split a van, and hotels, and taking 2 weeks off work, and everybody had to do that. And so I would have everything ready. All the parts I'd send to everybody. We'd have 2-3 days max to rehearse pre-production, which is nowhere near enough, and then we'd hit the road. So it was flying by the seat of our pants all the time, and that's the trouble. It's a chicken and egg thing, because you're not big enough, you can't commit the time, and you haven't got the money. It's just too much. So and the only way you can do it is to really, really bust a gut. And so we were rehearsing in the evenings, and John, our bass player, was driving 3 hours to rehearse, and by the time we'd set up our equipment, we might get 2 hours, 3 hours in, pack it down, he'd drive back, and 8 o'clock in the morning, back in the day job. So it was really tough, really hard. So anyway, so it did change, because then the band got bigger. I was able to become full-time music. In the early days it was really difficult. Did a lot of mixing to pay the bills. But then we were able to be much more open, because we had more time. So I would, instead of coming up with parts, I'd say, this is the song, come up with a part. And it would take longer, but we had that luxury.
Before it all caved in, 'cause I got demons, yeah, you should know. You put them in me, and I will not let them go. Yeah, I've got demons, yeah, you should know. You put them in me, and I will not let them go. Yeah, I've got demons.
So rather than you doing everything, because that reminds me also a lot of how I'm doing music. I wasn't much of a control freak, or renowned as one by some of the musicians I've worked with, but I think it's actually it actually gives the music more once you let the musicians come in and give some freedom on what can and cannot happen, as long as in the end I say, this is what Alex Sebastian sounds like, and this is what Alex Sebastian doesn't sound like, and then take that final decision on direction, left or right. But fusing in the ideas of other creative people really improves the overall result, I think.
Especially if you've got musicians you can trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bruce is a very easy guy to work with. Everything I send him, he never says, no, I didn't like that.
I mean, it's hard listening to something you have played and saying, no, I don't like that.
Sometimes something I didn't like, if I work on it for a few weeks, I might be able to turn it around. Like the song Versions of the Truth, Bruce presented it as like a bass synth and vocal, with that bass line, dum, dum, boom, 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 then he sings, and there's nothing else there. And it wasn't very inspiring like that. And then, I don't know why, one day I was sitting in my room and I could see my marimba looking at me. I thought, I wonder if I could play marimba on this, but not like, where you play traditional marimba and you do little rolls. Something more like San Jacinto by Peter Gabriel.
That's what it
reminded me of. Like a lot of notes which are kind of chaotic. So I think I did four 4 takes, and some of the notes are on the 2 different chords, and I crossed some of the notes and tried to make it just sound like a bubbly river or a street scene, like a cinematic, more a cinematic approach rather than, you know, traditional marimba playing. You know, this was more of just an atmosphere I was trying to get. And when we had the marimba with the synth bass line, then the tune really took a different path.
Yeah.
And that inspired us to go in a certain direction.
Sold me up before I had time to fight. No, it's not how I remember it. You cornered me. Not me. If you follow me, then I'll be out of sight. If you follow me, then I'll be out of sight. I'll never be the one who comes and crawls back in your life.
Fusing in the ideas of other creative people really improves the overall result, I think.
Especially if you've got musicians you can trust.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because if you haven't and they come up with something that you hate,
Yeah.
that's when bands can become tetchy places. Luckily, we're okay. I mean, we do disagree, but we never argue about it. So we're quite, because I've known so many bands that are, it's quite toxic. Being in a creative bubble, it can get toxic, and then it's not any fun. And
Yeah.
ultimately, these bands end up imploding.
Yeah. So that's the democracy part of a band. You have to find the compromises.
Yeah,
You have to-
and it does involve a bit of letting go.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is that the reason why you then also do your solo projects, where it just says it's Bruce Sword?
Yeah, I think so. And also because now that I'm full time and I've got this room, it's something I can do. I've got the luxury of being able to do it. So, and it's like you say, yeah, I'm then the auteur. I just do literally everything.
Yeah. So is the difference between a Bruce Sword record and the Pineapple Thief record? With the Bruce Sword record, Bruce does everything start to end, or do you also have musicians coming in contributing?
No, it's just me. Apart from the new one, I've got string section. So that, you know, it was a 6-piece, and I had an arranger that did the arrangements.
Okay.
So that was really good because he just came up with some brilliant things. But everything else, yeah, was me,
Including drums.
including drums. Yeah.
How do you do it? You don't play drums, right?
No, it's mainly sort of break beats and sort of electronic stuff. So it's a hybrid electronic sort of acoustic thing.
So that's much more, yeah, electronic. Then does it differ? I only know that one single of you where you're basically walking through.
Oh yeah, which has just got that kind
Which is
of
brilliant.
funky sort of like a funky sort of retro breakbeat, basically.
In this moment, let's just take a walk. Push past 158. There's no time to talk. Take a good look. As ours will be yours. Take a good look. As ours will be yours. For this moment, let's just push right on through. Past incarcerated humans contemplating just what's left to do. Have we come too far to fall upon our knees and turn back? For a moment, let's forget and face the sun. Sit back and don't reflect on what's to come. Take a good look as all this will be yours. Take a good look as all this will be yours.
Yeah, I think this is a difference. I mean, with where the drums really are, with Pineapple Thief and obviously with Gavin, the drums are much more of a creative instrument. You know, I mean, I think Gavin always would say, you know, he called it guerrilla drumming or something. You know, doing this all the way through. But then, you know, but with my solo, actually, it's just a time, really, just a sort of a Western backbeat is actually appropriate. But you wouldn't catch Gavin playing a backbeat, you know, through an album. I mean, he would do one, you know, but not. He wouldn't be happy just playing that for 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah, one can imagine. One can imagine. So when's that coming out? The new stuff?
September 29th.
September 29th.
If I get it delivered, I've got to deliver it in a couple of days. So yeah.